Solve and graph the inequality, then write the answer in interval notation. Okay, so these don't have just the letter on one side and all of the numbers on the other side. We have also the numbers that need to be solved. So when looking at these, for the most part, you can do this just like you had an equal to sign there. There is an exception though. Anytime that you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you need to flip that inequality sign. But when we're looking at this one, we don't have that problem, because the only thing being done is addition. So I need to get rid of the -3 using addition or subtraction. So I'm going to add the 3 to the other side. Now I have m equals 8, if that were an equal sign. It's not, but like I said, we can treat it like it is. I want to keep my same sign that I have there. So m is greater than 8. Now I need to graph it. So I'm going to have my number line. I'm going to have 8 somewhere on my number line. And I want m to be greater than that. So I'm going to think about if I have 0, and I say, is that greater than 8? No, it's not. So I want my numbers, I want my line to go out away from 0. So I want it to go in that direction, to the right. Because my 0 would be over there somewhere. Next thing I have to figure out is, do I want an open dot or a closed dot? Does it have the equal to part on it? No, it does not. So that means it gets an open dot. If you are doing this with the parentheses, you have your 8. You know that the line is going out that way. And you know it does not equal, so it gets round parentheses. And then I have to write it in interval notation. So I know, since I do it this way, I know that I have my round parentheses, and my 8 is my smallest number that it can be. And then it keeps going up from there. So that goes up to infinity. Infinity always gets the round parentheses. If you were using dot notation, you would then have to figure out, are you going to use the parentheses or are you going to use the square brackets? So looking at this one over here, I see I have a -7x, I see I have a -8x. First thing I want to do is get all of my x's together. So personal preference here, I like to have a positive coefficient for my variable. So I'm looking at the -7 and the -8, and I see that if I add the 8 over to the other side, I'm going to get a +1. Whereas if I had taken the -8 and I added the 7 over, that would give me a -1. So I want to do it this way. So I'm adding my 8x. Like I said, that's just personal preference. I need to make room. So now I have 3 plus 1x is greater than or equal to 10. My x is not alone yet, so I have to take another step here. I have to get rid of the 3, and you're allowed to do this all at one step. You don't have to do this in separate steps. So now I have 1x. Remember, 1 times anything is itself, so I can write just x there. It's greater than or equal to 7, because I'm subtracting the 3. Subtracting the 3. I am not multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So I do not have to change that sign. It can stay the greater than sign. Now I need to graph that. So I have my number line. I find 7 somewhere on my number line. I'm going to do it both ways for you. It does equal, it has that extra little line there. So if I'm doing with the dots, I fill in the dot. X has to be greater. So that I'm thinking in my head, if I make x equal to 0, and I say, is that greater than or equal to 7? 0 is not, so therefore I'm going in the opposite direction from 0. Going in the opposite direction from 0. Down here, I have to figure out, do I want the round parentheses or do I want the square bracket? It does equal, all the way up from the very beginning it says it does equal. So because it can equal up there, I'm going to use the square. Now I have to write it in interval notation. And this is where writing it like that comes in a lot easier to figure out the next step here. And there was nothing up at the top end of it, so we have positive infinity, and infinity always gets the round parentheses. So depending on whether you want to use dots or parentheses and brackets, you do one of these two graphs. You don't do both of them, just one of them. But if you're told to write in interval notation, you also have to do that. Looking at this next one here, I need to simplify that. You work on that while I make room. Okay, so simplifying it, first thing I see is the two x's here and here, so I'm going to combine that. So I have 7x plus 3 is less than 6x. So the next thing to do, the obvious thing to do, is to subtract the 7x over. We'll do that. I need room over here. So 7x plus 3 is less than 6x. Same thing that was down there. Subtract the 7x over. So now I have 3 is less than negative 1x. So looking at this, very important thing here is that negative sign. The 1 isn't as important because anything times 1 is itself. But that negative sign is very important there. I have to get rid of that. So I have to divide the negative 1 out. Divide the negative 1 out. Now, because I am dividing by a negative 1, I have to take that and I have to flip it around. So I have negative 3, because 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3, is greater than x. So now when I go to draw my line, I find negative 3 on it. Negative 3 has to be greater, so I'm going to compare this in my head to 0. Negative 3 greater than 0. Is that a true statement? No, it's not. So I need to go away from 0. Now I have to figure out, do I want the dot to be open or closed? It does not have an equal to sign on there, so it's going to be an open dot. If I'm using parentheses versus brackets, do I want it to be square or round? It does not have an equal to thing there, so I want it to be round. And now I have to write it in interval notation. So this is going to be, the -3 is the largest thing it could be, and it doesn't actually equal that, so I get the round parentheses. The smallest thing it can be is -infinity, and infinity always gets the parentheses. Could I have done this a different way? Yes, where I did not have to worry about that negative there. Same thing with this one. Could I have done that a different way? Yes, I could have, and then I would have had to worry about the negative. So let's do that one a different way, and then we'll come back and do this one a different way. So you remember I said something about personal preference. I prefer a positive coefficient. Well, you don't have to do the positive coefficient. I could have said plus 7x here, and then I'd have 3 is greater than or equal to 10 minus 1x. Get rid of my 10. -7 is greater than or equal to -1x. So that's allowable. That can be done. But I have that negative there now. So I have to divide out -1. Divide -1. And when I'm dividing that -1 out, I also have to switch that sign. So it now becomes less than or equal to. Negative divide negative is positive. 7 divide 1 is 7. Negative divide negative is positive, and I have the x there. So now I have 7 is less than or equal to x. And again, I'm going to compare that to 0. 7 is less than or equal to 0. And I'm asking about this. So my 7 is not less than 0, so that is wrong. So I want to go away from 0. It still ends up with the same answer. It's just that it takes more work because of that dividing by the negative thing. Over here, same idea. Let's make some room. So instead of subtracting the 7x over to that side, I'm going to take the 6x over to this side. So I subtract my 6x. Now I have x plus 3 is less than 0. Subtract my 3. I have x is less than -3. So this is a lot easier to see that it's going to go off to the left. There's my -3. Does not equal, so open dot or round parentheses, and same answer there. So it's a matter of what do you prefer to do? Do you like to deal with those negatives and division and multiplying and then having to switch the sign, the inequality sign? Or do you want to have it where you have a positive coefficient and you don't have to worry about switching that sign around?